Today we're going to be talking about sets and maps. First up is sets. A set is a data structure that stores an unordered list that does not contain duplicate values. Set constructor. Sets will have a default constructor that constructs it to have no data. We're going to look at the set methods really quickly. Add attempts to add an item to a set, returns true if successful. It would be unsuccessful if the item is already there. So if we had a set of numbers and we add 6 to it and 5, then it would have that set would contain 6 and 5. But if we go to add 6 again, we would be unsuccessful. The add method would return false because it cannot add 6 because it's already in the set. Boolean contains returns true if something's in the set, false otherwise, clear empties the set. Boolean is empty returns true if it's empty, false otherwise. Iterator gives you an iterator that allows you to navigate through the set. We'll talk about this one some more in class. Boolean remove attempts to remove the item from the set, returns true if successful. If you go to remove something and it's there, you can remove it and then you can return true. If it's not in the set, you can't remove it because it's not there. Size, which will return an int, returns the number of items in the set. ToString just prints off all the data in the set. And object bracket O to array returns an array form of the set as an array of objects. All right, let's do a real quick example. So we need the pen. If we did set.add5 and it's a set of integers, the set would contain 5. If we were to print it, we would get bracket 5 bracket. If we add 7, 3, 5, we could then add 7. And then we add 5. Then we go to add 5, we would be unsuccessful because it's already there. If we were to print the set, it would have 5, 7, 3. If we were to ask, does it contain 3? The answer would be yes, true. Does it contain 4? No, it does not. False. All right. Now we're going to be talking about maps. A map is a data structure that stores map entries with unique keys. A map entry is an object that stores a key and a value. A key must be unique, but a value does not have to be unique. So let's go back real quick. So what I'm talking about is, let's say for instance, we had a map of students. Your student ID would be the key. That has to be unique. Your student name does not have to be unique. We could have 2 different Joe Smiths in the school, and that would be perfectly fine. The first name and last name don't have to be unique. It would be uncommon to have 2 people with exactly the first name and exactly the same last name, but it happens. But their student ID would still be unique. We have to have a way of uniquely identifying everything that a map stores. So the key must be unique. The value does not have to be unique. So again, with the student example, student IDs are your keys, and your first name and last name might be your value. The value doesn't have to be unique, but your student ID does. It's the key. Methods. Void set key. Oh, this is for entry methods. This was throwing me off. So in one of our, we're going to create a class called entry, which is going to be used for storing a key and a value. Set key allows you to set the key value of an entry item. Set value allows you to set the value. We have get key, we have get value, we have a ToString that'll print off the key and its value. And equals will return true if the keys of the current object and the receive object match. So for our equals method, we're going to consider 2 items to be the same if they have the same key. We're not even bothering to compare their values. Here we're just saying if their keys match, they are the same. All right, now we're going to talk about maps. Maps will have a default constructor that constructs it to have no data. Methods we're going to have for a map. And notice it says part 1. There are a lot of methods. Clear empties everything. Contains key. It'll go through all the entries in the map and check to see if any of them has the given key. If any of them do, it returns true. If they don't, it returns false. Contains value. Returns true if at least one item in your set. Returns true if at least one entry has that value. Entry set, because a map is a set of map entries where the keys are unique. You could ask for all the items as a set. So it returns set of map entry with whatever type we're using for the key and the value. So it returns a set of the map entries. Get, and you send it a key. So if you use a get method on a map and you send it a key, it will give you the value that corresponds to that key. If the key is not in your map, it returns null. Is empty, returns true if there's nothing in the map, returns false otherwise. All right, put. Notice it returns a V. It returns a value. Put this key in this value. It adds the given value. It adds the value with the given key. If there is an entry if an entry was overridden, the value that was replaced is returned. Null is returned if nothing was replaced. What this means is if I go to add, let's go back to the student example. If I'm adding a student to my database and I give them a student ID that's already there, so I use a student ID and I'm adding James to my database, and I say put James at ID 5. Then it says, oh, Bill has ID 5. I am replacing Bill with James because the ID has to be unique. So it would send back Bill, letting me know that I have replaced Bill when I added James. If there was nobody with the ID 5 and I didn't add, we would get back null. You replaced nobody. Remove K, or remove key, goes and it finds an entry with that key, deletes it, and returns the value that corresponded to that key. If the key wasn't used and we tried to remove it, we'll return null. Nothing was removed. Size tells you the number of entries stored in the map. Values returns an array list of just the values. Key set returns all the keys, but the keys are a set. The keys are unique, so it's not going to return an array list of keys. It's going to return a set of keys because the keys are unique. We can return an array list of values because one value might appear multiple times. But we want to verify that the key set is unique. So when we return it, it's going to be a set of keys. All right, we're going to go ahead and do a quick example for this one, and we'll be done. So if I were to put to Bob, first of all, this would be null. I am replacing nobody. But then our map that has a key and a value would now have to Bob. Sorry, lowercase b. Now I do 7 Bob. This key is unique, so I also store 7 Bob and 2 Bob. 3 Ted, so I go here, 3. That's an E, D, D. Then, oh, here I replaced nobody, so that's what gets print. Here I replaced nobody. Now I do 3 Jane. So Ted is being replaced and Jane is being added. Don't have enough room to really write this, but there we go, Jane. And this would print Ted because it's giving me back the value that was lost by doing this put. If I were to print all the keys, I would get a set of 2, 7, 3. If I were to print all the values, I would get Bob, Bob, Jane. If I were to remove 3, I would remove Jane, and she would leave the list. Not the list, she would leave the map. And now this key and its value is gone. If If I were to remove 19, I would get back null. I couldn't find anything to remove with that key value. All right, we're done.